computer. So today I'm going to talk about input and output, how we can input and output data in R. And first we will enter some data from keyword. Then we will just list some files. And after that, after doing data inputting manually, we will read some files, okay, like text files, like Excel files in here. And after that, we will read and write some external files. And all of this work is going to be done in R. And let's see if how can I enter some data from my keyword. And if you know some R, you are of course familiar with how we can generate some small data sets in here. Let's say I just want to generate a small data set, and you are familiar with this C, which is just combining some numbers in here, like 60, 69, 80, 98, and 100. This is the simplest way that you can create a data in R. Maybe you will see that in your global environment, you have a new value, which is HWS, okay? And it's a numeric vector from with 5 elements in here. And of course, this approach also works with data frames, okay? And we can generate a data frame in R. This is another way to generate an input in here. And you know that we have that data frame function, and we should give the name of our columns. Let's say I have my label, which are low, mid, and high, okay? And after that, I'm going to adding another column in here, L bound. This is the name of my column. And here are the elements that are added in here. And we have U bound, upper and lower bounds in here. And I'm just adding some arbitrary numbers and just generating the data by hand manually in R. This is another way that you are kind of familiar with this one. Okie dokie. I think I did something wrong in here. This is R didn't like that one. Okie dokie. Here is my data. I have 3 columns and 3 rows in here. And if you want to print like fewer digits or more digits in here, and we can use something. Let's say I want to see pi in here. And when you just check out for the floating point in here, we have like 7 digits. You see that we have like 6 digits in here, but by default, R is just adding like 7 digits, and the 6 is going to be in here for pi in this example. And if you just do something like pi times 1000, you will see that R is kind of adjusting your output, and it's just 7 digits again in here. And if you want to just change the number of printed digits in your R output, you can just use print. I can say pi, and this is the option that you should use. You can just play with that one. If you say 4 and your digits and your output is just 4, or you can change it to pi times 100. And then you will see that it's just again adjusting your numbers, and you still have 4 digits on output. Okay. And of course, we can also use cat to format our numbers in here. I can say cat pi /n. Okay. Then this is how I see it. And of course, if you want to format that pi, you can just say cat and format in here. And I'm going to have my pi, and the digits in this option is 4. You can just play with this one, and then \n in here. Okay. Let's say I'm generating some number, random numbers from normal distribution, actually I'm just generating a density when I use p norm. And from normal distribution, let's say it's going from -2 to 2. And here are my numbers in here. I can just print them in a different format. P norm. And here is the digits. If I just write 3 in here, I have something wrong in this example. Print p norm -2 to, okay, I forget one of these guys. Yes, this one. Here is, I have my densities from normal distribution in here. And we just write 3 digits, but it is just adjusting that one according to what is happening in here. Actually, digits it's just an option. It just controls number of significant digits to print when you are printing your numeric values, okay? And you can write 1 to 22. 22 is the maximum number in there, and the default is 7. Please keep in mind that. And your non-null value for digits specify the minimum number of significant digits to be printed in that values in here, okay? And
Hocam bir şey sorabilir miyim?
sure. Please notice that print formats the vector elements like consistently in here, and it just find the number of necessary digits in there and just format the smallest number, then format all numbers to have the same width in here, okay? So it is like, I'm just telling what was happening in here. When we even write 2, it was giving 3. And so I'm going to generate another data in here, and let me just write it or copy and paste it from my notes that I don't want to write everything one more time. Let's see what I am talking about. Here is what. I have one vector. So we are generating a 10 random number from a normal distribution and just assign that values in V1. And for the line on 20 in R, we are also generating another 10 random numbers. And for V3, again, we are generating 10 random numbers. And then we are generating ladders like 1 to 10. And when you put all of them in a data frame, you will see that you have that data frame in here. And if you want to just play how you can just see that output in R, I may want to use that print again. And my data frame in here can be digits with 2. And you will see that R is happy with that one, then it is just adding 2 for you. But when you just check out for word 3 in here, you see that it counts that zeros to maybe, and then it has like 4 digits in here, or just optimizing the output depending on what is happening in the data in here. I will show you something in here. If you want to list your files, we will move to files and input and output now. And if you want to list the files on your working directory in here, you can just say list files and run that part. And for example, I have like applications, downloads, like movies and that stuff in my files in here. Maybe you can just check out your files in here, and let me move to reading and writing files in here. So when you are reading and writing files, the most important thing is that where you are working on now, what is your working directory now, okay? And if you want to see your active workspace, you can just use get working directory, guys, okay? Maybe you are familiar with that one if you are using like Linux or another language in here. If you just write get working directory, you see that I'm in my users and Fulia directory. Just write yours and see where you are working in here, okay? And it is always possible to use that place, that the directory I'm working on, okay? I can just change my working directory. And this is how we do that. I can write set working directory. And then in this quotes in R, we can just write the place where you want to go, okay? You can just write the place in here. For example, in my case, I can just write set working directory. And let's say I may write, I'm in users. Fulia, you just should give a path in here. Maybe I want to move to my desktop, okay? And then I just change my working directory. And if you want to see where am I, you see that now I'm in users Fulia, but then I'm also in the desktop file in this example. Right now I will talk about ready to use data sets in R, guys. And so here is the comment that you can just ring window listing ready to use data sets in here. When you just write data, and then you will see that R has some data sets and a pop-up comes here, then you can just see data sets and package in data sets in here. Here are some ideas. And we can just see one of them. If I use library comment in here and just say help equals data sets, you will see that it is just giving me some information on the package name datasets in here. And this is in base package in R. And here are some of their names and how they are included. For example, if you just check out for air passengers data in here, it is giving you that monthly airplane passenger numbers from 1949 to 1960 for this example. Or how can I see that one? If you add just question mark before the name of your data, air passenger, and just run it. And in your path window, your data will pop up with some information. And you will see that the air passenger data set in the library name data sets. And you can see the name in a longer version. And this is just the Box and Jenkins airline data. And they just give you monthly totals of international airline passengers from 1949 to 1960, okay? And here is the format. This is amount of time series, and they are in thousands in here. And you can even see the source or the reference of your data set. And here is the example that you can use in here. Here are some examples. If I were you, I would go and just play with that examples for myself, or some of them are kind of advanced for this lecture, okay? And here is my page again. After I see some more explanation, and I can just use some ready-to-use packages in R to see some more information related to my built-in data sets, okay? Let's say I can use str. This is just giving me the structure of my data, and just write the name as passengers. Here is a time series data sets. You can see some structure of the data, and also you can see use data package equals dot packages. This is another comment, then I can see all available data sets in here, okay? And when I just write this one, I can also see all the available data sets in my R in here. You may have different ones. Here are all the data sets. There are lots of them. You can just go and check for them and see how they are working and with the packages that you have in your R session in here. Here are mine, okay? And also there are some contributed data sets, guy. And let's say someone just generated a package in R, and they may add some data set as a part of that contributed packages in here. Okay, I can give you some example. Let's say I want to use that library NLME. If you do not have that library, you can just use install packages and quotes and name of the library and run that part first. And after that, you will have your library in your R. And here is how you install package. And you just run this one once, okay? And this part is just loading package, load your package, and you run this code every time you use the package. You have to do that. I installed the package. I didn't install because I already have that one. But if I want to use that package, I have to load the data, like library, nonlinear mixed effect, NLME. If you are looking for what is happening in this package, you can just write library and say help equals NLME. And this is the information on package in here. They have the latest version, very close. And this is just giving me a linear and nonlinear mixed effects and description and many more information related to my data in here. So I just run this part once, then let me comment that one, then you will not run it anymore. And every time when I open my R, I will just load my library in here. And I want to see one of the data set, which is just contributed data sets in that package. The name is orthodont. I just load the data set. If I want to see my data set, I can just use head comment. It's going to give me the first 6 lines of my data. Here is my orthodont data. And I'm just seeing the first 6 lines. And it is a group data, distance versus age for each subject. And you see that I have distance. This is the response variable. And it is if you want to see more information, it's interesting data sets. And you are just see the growth curve data on an orthodontic measurements in here, okay? And the distance means, I never can read this part. This is just a numeric vector of distance from pituitary to the Peter-Gomaxillary fissure in here, okay? This is how we can just define distance, and we have age, it's a numeric vector from 8 to 14 for each 2 years, okay? And then I have subject, and this is just the repeated measurements of my subjects in here. You can just get a data set from a package in R, guys. This is very, very easy in here. Yeah. So after that one, we are going to read some external files in R. Let's see. I'm going to read external files in R. That means we just have a data, which is an external data file. And we want to use that file by using a variety of functions. They are defined already in R, guys, okay? For example, if your data is in like a table format, you might just check out for if that has any header in there. And it has, if it has a header in there, it's going to be in the first row. And also, please keep in mind that when you're reading a data set in R, if there is any missing value in your data, it's going to be NA in there, okay? Let's say it's going to be NA, okay? If you have missing data, it returns as NA in this example. And now we are going to read some tabular data files. We are going to use read that. You see that we have lots of read that functions in R. And read that, oh, sorry guys. Read that table. And then you will write the file name in here. And you just give a name to your data. Here is my data. My data. I use that read the table function, and it is just returning a data frame, okay? and reading a text file. And that may contain a table of data in here. And each row in the input your file is interpreted as an observation in your data set. And each column in the input file just represents a variable. Please remember that it is just a rectangular data set. Okay? And read table function just look for your separation. You have that separation as, or you use that delimiter as your separator in your data sets, okay? And this is a file name that I may have my, let's say if I list my files, SQL into, I don't have any text files, I guess. If I had any text files in here, I can just write the name or just write the path of my data in here. Let's see what I mean. Here is what. I can just add the place of my file name in here. We will do more examples in here, guys. And tabular data files, please keep in mind that they are really common in here. And so the text files in simple format has each line contains one record, and I will show them to you. And within each record, the fields or the items are separated by one character delimiter. It can be a space or tab or colon or comma, and each record contains the same number of fields in this example. And so in this example, we are going to use one of the text file formats in here and read that one in this example. I want to use a txt file, which is sample.txt file in here. And let's see what I mean. Let's see what I mean. I want to use my read table. And I want to get my sample.txt file in here. And I will say that there's a header in my data set, okay? And I want to write or assign this data to anywhere, like give it a name, my data 2. Okay, okay. When I run this one, you will see that it is not working because what? So this is not working in our case because we are not in the same folder with sample.txt. If I just want to see where I am, I can write get working directory in here, guys, and see I'm in desktop method. And my file is not in there. My file is just in, let's say, set working directory. I will take this part. And my sample.txt in Metu in courses and in stat 291. Okay, okay. And also in lecture notes. This is where I put my txt file in here. Now, if I run this one, you will see that I'm able to see my data 2 in this example. And here is my data 2. Okay, okay, we are able to see now how our data looks like. And maybe you get the header comment in here, since we said that header is true. And you see that first line is just seen as header by R from my txt file in here. And this is an example. And please keep in mind that the point in here is that you should have your files where you are working on in R, or you can just tell where it is. Instead of changing my working directory, I can just use this same command. And before the name of the data set, I can just give the place of my data set in here. Let's see, in here. Guys, now I'm just reading my data and the sample.txt by giving the place of my data set. This is another way that you can just see that. And please keep in mind that by default, read table assume the data files are separated by white space, okay? White space means just blanks or just tabs in there. And also, we can do something else in here. Let me use this one. Okay. And now I'm going to read again my table, my data 3 this time. I will use read my table R. And here is the name of my data, sample.txt. And I'm just going to add one more option in here. The header is true. And I can just say strings as factors as false. And let's see what I mean. And if you want to see your data tree, and you have the same data set, but this time, if you just check out for class, my data tree, $, my st in here, this was just a string in my example. You see that as character. And if you just check out for this one, for the previous data set, which is my data 2, and you will see that this again character, maybe I can just say typo. So what I mean in here is that, I don't know why this is not like that. If we use just the read table, and the default is true in here, okay? Let's say, if I just say true, and just check out for the class, you see that this is just factor. And if I do not change that one, it is just giving me as character in this example. And if you want to just specify that one, you can just play this part. So let's say that you have some string in your data. This part is my string, for example, Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir. These are my string. If you want to get them as factors, you can just say that strings as factor true in your example. And if you do not write that one, it is going to be read as characters for your read table in here. Now we also read them as factors, or we also read characters as factors and characters in this example. And I'm going to use another example in here, which is sample2.txt. And sometimes your files may use some different separator other than white space. For example, for this one, the separator was white space. Separator means you are just writing an item in your data, then you just tap, then just adding another item, okay? This is how you can separate your items in your data sets. And we can even use some column in our data set like this one, guys. Let me show you what I mean. For example, in the sample.2, you see that my separators are column in here instead of tab. For sample data, we have tab. These are white spaces, and we have enter at the end. And for sample2.txt, we only have column in this example. And if you want to read these files in R, there is another option that you can use. And I want to read another data set. Let's see, my data 4. And I'm going to read that table. And here is my sample2.txt. Sorry, guys, I just made a typo. And again, there's an header. Header is true. And also, guys, I just take strings as factors false. I don't want to get them as factors. And there's one more option in here. You can just use sep, which is separator option. Then I just add column because I have column in this example. But if you do not have any options related to your sep, That means you are using the default one, and default is just white space. And I have my data for sample 2 headers and post separator yazayım. Okay, and it is again reading with a warning message in this example, no problem. It says that there's an incomplete final line in here. And now again, we were able to read that data set, even it has a colon as separator in here. And also there is one more example I want to show you guys. Let me share my screen again. In sample.3, and this data set is another one, and it's just including some hashtags at the beginning of some lines. And if you have hashtags, that's going to be as comments, comment in your R file. Let's see what I mean. Let me share my R screen with you guys. And here is my R screen. I'm giving you another example with this one. And here is my data 5. And I will read my table. Here is my table in here. And this time I'm reading sample 3. Oh my God, sample 3.txt. And we have header as true. If you just check out for your my data 5 file, and you see that you only have your data, and I didn't read your comments because they have pound sign, which is hashtag sign, and then R is just ignoring the ignoring that lines that begins with a pound sign in here. That means you can just put any comments on your data. R will be good with them. Just do not see them in there. So if you want to need to open your files iteratively in here or just by hand, you can just write file choose, and your working directory will pop up in here. I have this one, for example, and I can just choose one of them in this example, and it's just giving me the place in here. Or I can write my data choose. I want to choose one of them from my working directory. And here is the command. You can just read table files equals file choose and just run this part, and a window just pop up, and it's just showing me the working directory. I can just choose my sample.txt, and you see that my data is my sample.txt, but you should say something like this one. Separator equals column, and then oh no. I forget this one. And then I choose salary.to.txt, and it just gives me this one. Okie dokie. So for this lecture, we are going to read from CSV files. And please keep in mind that if you want to get some data set from Excel, R is not directly compatible with standard XLS or XLSX files in there, okay? But R works perfectly with CSV files. That means like comma-separated Excel files. Let's say you have some kind of data sets, and how can I show you data set? Let me share another screen with you guys in here. And here is my CSV file. I have the air travel data set. This is another CSV file. Please keep in mind that it is just comma separated. You see them as comma separated. And then the first line is just header in here. We will try to read that. The extension also for this data is CSV. And now we are going to read that file in R together. And let's see how can I manage that one. I'm going to read my data and give it a name as my data 6 in here. And we can, instead of read table, we can just use read CSV in this example. And I'm going to write the name of my data, the air travel.csv. And if you want to see your data set, guys, you see that my data 6 just looks like this one. And there's something weird in here. Maybe you get that. This is kind of weird in here. And so if the file did not contain a header in here, you can just say header equals false in this example. Let's say my data 7. If you think that your data set doesn't have a header inside, you can just say header equals false, okay? Then your data 7 is something like this one. And maybe you see what is happening. I get all of them as data and I just added a line because a CSV file just have to have a header in there. And when you say you don't have header in your data set, are just giving an arbitrary name to your data set in here, okay? And so this is just a data set from 1983 to 1960, and like giving some, this is just a transatlantic air travel data, and it is giving just in thousands of passengers from 1958 to 1960, okay? And maybe you see that we have 4 fields. The first one is just month, and the second one is the year, 1986, 1958, 1959, 1960, and from January to December for each month. And we also have one line which is just the initial header in here. Okay, this is the data set we are using. And if you, the one thing good in CSV is that if you read the CSV and my data, for example, if you want to see the SDR of your data, and you see that it is giving you the character values, integers in this example, okay? And if you want to read your strings in this example, let's say, let me use another option, my data 8, and I want to add another option in here. I will use read CSV again, and same data set, air travel.csv. And this time we have as is. That means a string in here. And if you just say as is as false, and str my data 8, and you see that if you just choose as is option as false, you see that this time the string, the month, is seen as factor, which is maybe better for us guys. And before that, if you do not use this option in here, you will see that the month is read as character by R, and by adding this as is factor as false, this function, and you see that your character is factor. And this is what we are expecting to see in our example. So after reading that files, we are going to write 2 CSV files. That means we save a matrix or data frame in a file using the comma separated values format in here. And in this example, let's see, we are writing 2 CSV files. 2 CSV files, just the opposite what we have done so far. And so by using this write CSV function, we just write tabular data to an CSV format in here. And each row of your data creates one line in the file. And this is just separated by commas in here. We first generate a data for ourselves. Let's see what I mean. Here is my data. V1, V3, V4, we have done it before today. My data frame. And you see that I have my data now. And if you want to write this data from your R to a CSV file, okay, you can just use write.csv and just write the name of your data, my data frame, and then you should give it a path where you want to put that one. For example, let me just get my working directory, and I want to just use this place to add my data. Okie dokie. Here is my file, the place, and I just want to say row names equals false. And then I should give it a name, maybe. Yes, something like my file. I should give it a name, guys. Okay. Lecture notes is a directory in my computer. Then, of course, it's not going to work. You should also write the name of the file you want in here. My file, for example, in here. Or you can write my file.csv. It's up to you guys. Then R is going to write my file in my directory. Okie dokie. File.csv. Maybe I can use open.choose. What was that? We used it before. File.choose. File.choose in here. And that pop up, you see that? I just save my file.csv now in here. I just wanted to show you that one. My file.csv. Let's say you want to change the name. Instead of my file, I want to say it as patates. And now patates is there. Let me open that one from here. And then I have my patates CSV file I want to show you guys. Yeah. Here is my data set that I have, var1, var2, var3, and names. And then these are my random numbers, and these are the letters we saved in our CSV file we did together. We are going to save and load some R objects. R allows you to save and load R objects to an external files, guys, in here. Let me just first generate a data set in here, and you will have them in chats. Here is the data set we are going to use now. I have my salary, position, team, name, last. This one. Name, last, name first. And type 5 salaries. Here is my data set. The simplest way to save an object is with the save function. They have that save function. And I want to use that save function to top salaries.r data in working directory. Let's see what I mean. What is the file choose? Okay. I'm going to use save function in here to save it. And here is my data set, top.5 salaries. These are the top 5 salaries of baseball, maybe, I'm not sure. And the file name is going to be top.5 salaries again, and R data. This is an R data format. This R data is just an R data format in here we are going to use. And in R, we should specify that path names in here. If you want to see that one, you can just use load top 5. Sorry guys, how was it? This one. Let me just copy and paste. And we are going to load the data in here. And now I loaded my data set. I can just easily see that one in R for you guys. This is how you can just save your file in R data format and load that one again in your data or in your R screen in here, guys. Also, there's one thing which is important in input some data in here, which is also good news, that we can read some tabular data or CSV data from the web. That's very, very useful. We can just get it from the web. This is the thing that you can just give the URL and then R is going to read that one. For example, you know that there's a data CSV file in this website, okay? You can just give the name of the website, the slash and the name of the data. And by even using read.csv, which is very easy, you can just read that, that data set in here. But this is just an example website, of course. There's no data, something like that. And also we can read data from HTML tables. And for this one, we will use, let me just write the name. We are going to read from HTML tables. For this one, guys, we will use library XML in this example, okay? So I don't have that one, and I should use XML. And here is my package. I will use that one. And here is my library. First of all, you should give the URL of your data. For example, I'm going to use this extension in here, the website. And after that, I want to write this data set from here. Read HTML table is the option. Then give the name of your data sets in here. Okay, okay. So this example is just an arbitrary data. Now we will work with the real data sets in here, guy. Okay. I want to show you a Wikipedia page now. Then from that Wikipedia page, we are going to use that Brazilian soccer team. And from that Wikipedia page, we are trying to get some data sets. Here is my, let me share with you guys. Here is my web page. Okay, okay. Here is the Wikipedia page. We have this Brazilian national football team Wikipedia page in here. And you see that there are some tables in here, this guy and other tables. And we are going to get one of the tables directly from this web page to the R, okay? And I think this is kind of cool that you can get that one. I hope my code is still working, guys. Let's see what I mean. Let's see. And what will happen is that first I will just load one of the packages. Let's see if I have that one. We just harvest kind of the package that you are using, that one. If you do not have it, please use install packages. And we will just use RS library in here. First of all, you should give the name of the web page you will use, guys, okay? Let's see what I mean. I want to read it to file, and please use read HTML, okay? That means you are going to give the name of the web page in here. Let me get that one. Here is the web page we are going to use now. Wikipedia, Wiki, Brazil National Football Team that I show you, okay? You can just go to web page in here. There was it. And go here and just get the web page name from your web, okay? And let me move to R, and we will read this part first. Here is my file. I go there and I get it now, okay? And after, in this example, we use that Wikipedia page on Brazilian soccer team, this guy, and then we will try to read it in R and get the list of all matches Brazil have played against FIFA recognized teams in here. This is just a table in that web page, okay? After that, you say that I'm going to get the HTML note in here. These are the steps that you should use. HTML, you should get the note from HTML note or notes maybe. And I have my file. File is the name of my web page. And I want to get that table. Here are my tables. And I will choose one of them. Like table 1 is going to be this. I will have HTML table, just reading that one. And please remember, we have tables that we saved before. And I will get the fourth one, and the field equals true. This is the option. And then maybe I'm kind of getting one of the table in here, and which is just Wikimedia Commons has media related to Brazil football team kids. I think they maybe changed the table number in here. You can just play with this web page and just play with that numbers and see what tables you can see there. For example, the first one is just giving me another table in here with lots of NAs. And our second one is another one. Just play with that one, guys, okay? And I'm just trying to give you an example to show you that we are kind of able to get the tables from web page directly. This is going to be really useful for you if you are kind of doing like text mining from some magazines or even some web pages of specific characters. Then they are using kind of directly data set from the web page. And please keep in mind that generally the data set taken from HTML files are not like tabular data sets. They are irregular, okay? And the working with irregular data sets are not that easy. So you should be careful, okay? Then this is all I wanted to say about what is happening in input and output in R. We are able to see the writing some files manually. Also, if there are some data sets in R, they are ready to use, and we can just get them from packages in R. And also we have some external files. We can read them by using read table. And after that, we read some files from CSV ones, and by using read.csv, which is really useful. You will like it, guys. It's very easy to use. And then we learn how to write two CSV files. Let's say you have a data frame on your R, then you want to do kind of an output and just generate an output as CSV. And then we save and load some R objects. That's not that commonly used, but it is good to know. And also we read some tabular or CSV data from the web in this example as a last step for today.